Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Namaste. What a trip this Chandi Sadhana has been. It is currently the year 2024, and once again we got a team together to help update and upgrade our literary offerings, especially our new materials, insights, and studies of the Chandi Path, our apps, and our website. It has been 50 years since our first officially registered edition of the Chandi was published in 1974. I had been chanting, studying, and translating the Chandi since the late 1960s, and even published a few local iterations in India before we got personal computers in 1980s. One edition was published in Birbhum in West Bengal, and the other in Rishikesh in northern India. I had performed Sahasra Chandi Yajnas in both locations while I was translating. 6 years of chanting the Chandi every day, 3 years in each location. In total, I've done it 7 times. 21 years of chanting and studying Chandi in various ways through many resources. I made some additions and corrections to these publications in 1981 and added some more new material in 2001. And when we first began digital publications, and again in 2019 when we submitted our books for print on demand. And then we started working on the Samasti Chandi Bijman Pratika and the Tantra Durga Shakta Sati Bhujya Bijwala, and spent the next few years sitting for 16 to 18 hours a day, chanting the entire book in one asana, sometimes backwards and forwards, Siddha Ultapat, and many of you can attest to the glorious feeling that comes from what is called long asana sadhana, where we sit in one asana and continue chanting with pranayam throughout the day and as much as we can in the night. We posted some articles and interviews about several of those experiences on our website at srimad.org, long asana sadhana, with a hyperlink. So if you want to click on the link, you can see the video of us sitting for hours together and talking to people about what they experienced. Even Moon was sitting for, remember that in Uti, we sat for 10 hours or more. As a result of this focus of my attention, our website and many of our apps failed to keep up with system upgrades and current standards, and then the apps didn't work properly with newer tablets, and we could not post properly to the website. A few months ago, Nanda and Pallavi reconstituted a new team, and while Abhyuday has been working on the apps, Siddhartha and Moon headed up the web development, and Kumari and Paramananda were working on the server issues. Rudra helped type and translate Sanskrit, and our first new publication is this 1,344-page collection of so many things related to Chandi in Devanagari Roman with an English translation. This particular book contains the Chandi Path in Sanskrit, Roman, and English, a Sanskrit-only Chandi Path, the Chandi Yajna Padoti in Sanskrit, Roman, and English, how to perform the sacred fire ceremony, the Samasti Chandi Bijmantratmaka, the Sanskrit Tantra Durga Shakti Saptasati, the Tantra Bijmantratmaka, the Tantra Durga in Roman transliteration, Tantra Durga in English translation, the Bij mantras by chapter, the Bij mantras in alphabetical order, the Sri Chandika Navakshari Prishati Stotram and Namwali in Sanskrit, Roman, and English, and the Sri Chandika Navakshari Prishati Stotram and Namwali in Sanskrit only. So it contains a number of different ways we can chant the Chandi Path, along with their translations in English. And I'm sure that in the future, devotees will come along to help us put these into other languages as well. On our website, we already have Bengali, Devanagari, Dutch, Hindi, Portuguese, Roman, Spanish, Tamil, and Telugu available for free download at srimad.org with a hyperlink. Those are the administrative issues I wanted to cover, and a short history of the evolution of our Chandi studies, how we moved from sitting in worship for 15 minutes a day to I rose up to 16 to 18 hours a day as our sadhana grew. Now, I wish to describe what these works do, how they work, and most importantly, what we feel because of making this the core teaching of our lifestyle. Many of you already know the story of the Chandi. We call her she who tears apart thoughts. In brief, I will share her story again. The Chandi Path. The great ego performed this tremendous tapasya, a strong spiritual discipline, and when Rama came and asked what he wanted, he replied, I want to be immortal. Rama said that's impossible. Whatever comes into manifestation will by nature go out from manifestation. It will become unmanifest. Choose another boon. And the great ego replied, if I must die, then let my death come at the hands of a woman. Brahma looked at him quizzically and asked, why would you want a boon such as that? And the great ego replied, I am so strong and such a valiant warrior, if I don't have to worry about any man defeating me, then what woman can possibly cause my demise? Little did he know. Rama immediately said, Tathastu, I give you that boon. Then the great ego conquered the earth and made everyone on earth a servant of the ego. In fact, there was no one who did anything without saying, I did that. After conquering the earth, he marched right up to heaven and threw all the gods and goddesses out from heaven with disrespect, and he sat down on the throne of Indra, the king of the gods. And since the gods and goddesses had no place to stay, they moved into the bodies of men and women, and as all men and women were servants of the great ego, the gods also forgot their divinity and became oppressed by a life of fulfilling responsibilities rather than enjoying privileges. Some of the gods and goddesses got together and said, this is a drag. Instead of enjoying life, we are tolerating life. Let us put down our burdens and pick up our opportunities and figure out how to cause the demise or at least the surrender of the great ego. We sat down to meditate, to be still, quiet, to free our minds from the constant chatter, and when we began to recite our mantras and perform our disciplines, too little attacked. And he said, you can't sit still. You don't have enough. Get up and get some more. And dutifully, we went back to work and again tried to sit down quietly, and too much came and said, you can't sit still. You have too much. Get up and get rid of the excess. And when we finally got the right amount so that we can sit, we closed our eyes and we went to the movies. Some of us called it meditation. We watched all the events of our lives both positive and negative, and the Asuras attacked again and said, "This is a good movie, didn't you do that well? And that was a bad movie, boy did you mess up on that one." Self-conceit and self-deprecation took over our minds as the judges of all the experiences of our lives, and we were powerless to stay with the mantra and enjoy communion with God. Then they brought their friends, so many other Asuras, who had names like devoid of clear understanding, want of resolution, wandering to and fro, foul mouth, irresistible temptation, and a seed of desire. We tried everything we could think of to free ourselves from the dominion of the great ego and his hordes, but it was to no avail. Then we remembered the boon that the Divine Mother gave to all of creation. Anytime you remember me as the energy within all, anytime you pray to me or sing to me with one-pointed devotion, with so much devotion that you can't pay attention to anything else, then and there I will withdraw all of my energy from duality and allow you to focus on divinity. By chanting her mantras, singing her songs, we cultivate that ultimate love affair with the goddess of the universe and love her so much that we can't think of anything else. Love her to the exclusion of delusion. At the completion of the 700 verses, she asked the king, whose name was Good Thoughts, and who was listening to the story, "What do you want?" And the king replied, "I want an eternal kingdom of good thoughts, and I don't want any bad thought to enter into my kingdom." And the goddess replied, "Tathastu, I give you that boon, just think of me with everything you do." Then she asked the businessman, whose name was Pure Intuitive Perception, and who also heard the story, "What do you want?" And the businessman replied, "I have you. What else could I want?" So the goddess said, "Stay with me always. Wherever you go, you will chant the Chandi Path. Establish temples for the goddess Chandi and share the teachings of the Chandi." In brief, this is the story of the Chandi. We have forgotten our divinity, and in order to remember, we must put down our burdens and obligations and pick up our privileges and opportunities and perform every action in life as a service to her, because it is a privilege to demonstrate the sincerity of our love. We must remember her mantras and sing the name of God. Chandi Yajna Padoti, in Sanskrit, Roman, and English, how to perform the sacred fire ceremony. Yajna comes from the Sanskrit root yuj, to unite. Inside the Ajna chakra in the third eye is a light. We enkindle that light outside in the Hawan Kun, and the union between the two lights is the Yajna. Outside in the physical fire, we can see how brightly our inner light is glowing. This is the Yajna. We draw the yantra of Chandi in the Hawan Kund, and then invite all the gods and goddesses, the entourage of the Divine Mother, to witness the offering of our loving devotion. Lastly, we invite the Divine Mother Chandi to join in the center of our worship, and we offer to her oblations for every mantra we sing from the Chandi Path. We recite the entire Chandi Path, and for every verse we make an oblation to the fire, And this enhances the energy for the mantra. The fire and the divine light of meditation in the Ajna chakra are all one. The bhavana continues to grow. The Tantra Durga Bij Mantratmaka. Every verse of the Chandi conveys a specific energy, and all energy creates vibrations, and every vibration is expressible by a Bij mantra. And these Bij mantras of the verses of the Chandi are the natural names of the vibrations we wish to feel as we recite the story of the text. The Tantra Bij Mantratmaka is a list of these vibrations in the order of the text, an esoteric expression of the vibrations of Chandi verse by verse, both in the order as they appear in the text and in alphabetical order if you wish to look up any bija for the purposes of study and gaining control over your own inner processes. By reciting the Bij Mantratmaka, we become conductors of the vibrations of divinity, and filling our being with that positive energy, we reduce the space allocated for negativity. It's smaller and smaller and smaller. We assume the character of the vibrations we radiate, and we become a member of the entourage of divinity. Our thoughts, words, and actions join in the eternal celebration of divinity as she takes over more and more of our lives. The Sahasra Chandi Yajnas is the placement of these bijas throughout the text of the Chandi, where we recite the full mantras of the story interspersed with the vibrations they are evoking. Weaving a tapestry of mantras, the bijas empower the mantras to enliven the story until the goddess becomes our living reality. Combining the Chandi Path with the bijas raises the level of our sadhana in time, character, and intensity. And the vibrations take over our being, and the text concludes with a number of stotrams, songs explaining and expressing this divine love affair. There are 3 ways to recite the bijas. One, as a list of vibrations which we will encounter as we enhance our relationship with the Divine Mother. Secondly, interspersed within the text of Chandi. And third, as a glossary of vibrations expressed by bijas, which illuminate the path of surrender. Therefore, Samasti Chandi Bij Mantratmaka, Sanskrit Tantra Durga Shakti, and Tantra Bij Mantratmaka are presented as separate books, so we can read through them in their entirety without requiring to skip around in the book. In the individual introductions, I've discussed some of the history and various names by which these texts are known. Saptashatya, Bhutya Bijanamalali, Tantra Durga Shaptasati, Samasti Chandi Bijamantratmaka, all refer to these texts, which include the Bij mantras from the Chandika. 3, Chandika, Navakshari, Trishakti, Stotram, and Navnali. The Nivarna mantra, or Navakshari, the 9-lettered mantra, is the Mool mantra, the root of the Chandika. Aing, Ring, Kling, Chamundaya, The Siddha Kunjika Stotram of the Chandi is a chapter dedicated to the exposition of the inner meanings of this mantra. These 300 names are very much like the Lolita Trishakti, the 300 names of the goddess Lolita, and use each letter of the mantra as the starting letter of each name, and together spell out the esoteric meaning, the applications and examples of the 9 letters in the order of their appearance in the text. There are 33 names which begin with each of the 9 letters, equals 297 names, plus Aim Rim Klim Chamundai Viche, Mahakali Mahalakshmi Saraswati, and Sri Durga Parameshwari Namaha, equals 300 names defining the 9 letters. These 9 letters stand for the 9 forms of Durga, and then all the 9s, the 9 strings of the sacred thread, the 9 planets, the 9 angles within the circle of creation in the Chandi Yantra. Each of these works is a book in itself, but all these limbs of the Chandi and much of its esoteric knowledge, which is why I wanted to combine them all into one book about Chandi and her sadhana. Now, we want to describe how it feels to do this sadhana and what it feels like after we have done this sadhana. The ancient rishis were called kavi, meaning poets, because they used poetry to express the intensity of their love affairs with God. I'm reminded of Socrates in the Symposium, where he conducted an effort by the greatest of Greek poets to praise love. And everyone concluded that we can't praise her until we define her, and ultimately they understood that love is an undefinable energy which causes all beings to seek a greater perfection. Here again, we are speaking about an undefinable energy, which the rishis described as neti neti, not this and not that. By the very nature of the infinite, as soon as we try to define it, it becomes limited, and therefore it becomes something different from that intuitive experience which is beyond the mind. To say it is good is to minimalize or trivialize the experience. But it is good and even better. It is so good that we all seek to find love in so many ways. Unfortunately, most of those experiences are transient. But can you imagine a love affair that starts every day in the same intensity as we ended the previous day and keeps growing until we lose all capacity to communicate? It is unspeakable. How I remember that time reciting the verses of the Chandi when I went so deeply into the feeling that my body became too small to contain me. I rose up above and looked down at that meditating sadhu below and thought, that is only one form of me. In fact, I looked over at other forms and thought, those are all forms of me as well. Every form in existence is a form of me. I am reciting these mantras, and it is me, praising me. I am the only one here in this existence. Every vibration, every sound is me praising me because I am in love. I am love. As I remember today, that feeling lasted some months. In fact, I wanted it to last my entire lifetime, but alas, I was destined to return to duality. I rose up above and looked down at that meditating sadhu. I was destined to return to duality. And then I heard a voice within me saying, no one stays on top of the mountain. Either they don't find what they are looking for and get hungry and tired and by necessity come down to sustain their bodies, or they do find what they are looking for and come down because of the need to share it. I had to share it. It was just too good to keep only for myself. So not only did I translate so that I could understand, but I took the extra step to find people to help me preserve and share and distribute that understanding. I wrote it down in books, and then I made classes of the books and posted them on our website, and I made apps, and then began touring to share with devotees around the world. Everywhere we went, we made a temple of the Divine Mother and taught people the meaning and method of worship and sang the Chandi Path, just like the king and the businessman, the characters in the book. My sadhana breathed. Sometimes I would chant in one place for hours and years together. Sometimes I would chant for an hour or two and then type and translate the mantras of these sacred texts. Now we have friends all around the world enjoying the worship of the Divine Mother in their lives, and I feel like I can stay in love forever. Swami Satyananda Saraswati, Uvita, Costa Rica, 2024.